This is far and away my favorite tip because it works so well. I think that adds weight to this theory that they don't count all of your stations. Firstly, congratulations that you're even here right now searching how to do well in an interview. That in itself is a mammoth achievement, and I want you to take the time to celebrate that with me. If you're online searching for interview tips, that means that you've worked diligently and consistently enough that you've either scored yourself an interview or that an interview looks like it's in the realm of possibility for you, and both of those are incredible and powerful positions to be in. You are so close to realizing your dream. For those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Ashima and you are watching my channel, Aesthetic Academic. I started this channel because a few years ago, I actually got kicked out of university, and a few years after that, I managed to get accepted into a medical degree at Australia's best university. I actually interviewed at 2 universities and I got into both of them. I am not a genius. I am average. I just learned how to be a dedicated learner and fostered some work ethic along with it. I have no doubt in my mind that whoever you are, you can get into medicine too if that is what you really want. Interviews are the best because it is your time to showcase your unique personality and why you deserve to be there, which you do. So you just have to make that come across in the interview. The interviewers aren't trying to trick you. They're just trying to look for people who they think will be the best doctors. You've been thinking about this and planning for this for years, and the interviewers are going to be able to see that when they interview you. So let's get into some interview tips. Tip 1 is prepare to answer the question, why medicine? This is the most contentious tip. I have seen so many people writing about this online and why they don't think this is a good idea. A common counter argument I see for this is that the interviewer will see that you've prepared the answer and it will sound too robotic and they're going to mark you down because of that. I think this is so completely wrong. Okay, let's do a thought experiment. Imagine you are interviewing someone for a medicine spot. Most of the time you've got between 1 to 2 minutes to answer each question. And someone comes in and you say, why do you want to study medicine? And they say, I love helping people. If someone ummed and ahed their way through a 2-minute answer about why you want to study medicine, would you be impressed with their nonchalance or disturbed? I would be fucking disturbed. You, wonderful nerd, I'm sure are very big on planning and organizing. I bet you don't like starting assignments the day before they're due. That is spectacular of you, and that is why you have gotten the interview. Don't fuck it up with some stupid mind games. This isn't someone you met on Tinder. This is one of the most important days of your life, so prepare for it. The second tip is using psychology to your advantage. This is a 2-parter. This is part A. They're not gonna remember most of what you said. This is one of the most liberating things to realize about the interview. The saying, people don't remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel, is important in interviews as well. How am I this woke, did you ask? Oprah Winfrey. Basically, if you walk into the interview and you smile and you're nice to the person and you deliver a measured answer that doesn't sound too psychotic, that's wonderful. In one of my interviews that I had, the people didn't have any paper in the room with them when I was in the room. So I just spoke at them for 5 minutes and they filled out a sheet after I left. No way were they gonna remember what I had been saying to them for a full 5 minutes. There's no chance that they could remember that much. I was helping a friend yesterday practice for his MMIs, and I was trying to stay really focused because I wanted to give him good feedback that would be helpful. But by the end of it, I was zoning out so much, it was really hard for me to stay engaged with what he was saying because I was just fatigued at that point. It's just the way people are, but it's an advantage in an interview. Part 2B is that they're most likely to remember how you closed the interview. This is something I consciously thought about a lot before my own interview. I finished all of my interview stations about 30 seconds before the interview was up, and I spent that time just talking to the interviewer, asking them how their day was, asking them questions about their life, and if they reciprocated, like talking to them briefly about my life or a fun anecdote that had happened that day, something light and conversational. People love talking about themselves, and your interviewers are no different. I am sure they will very much appreciate if you take this moment to ask them how they are. For me personally, I would rather finish a little bit early and have that time than speak all the way to the end and then risk being cut off and then feeling flustered at the end of the station. I just think that is such a worse note to end on. Your interviewer is going to have interviewed multiple very smart, very articulate people that day. So it's little things like that that are going to make a difference and set you apart. Once you realize those two things, it's virtually in the bag, isn't it? Tip number 3 is converting your anxiety into excitement. The inner monologue you have with yourself is super important at any point in your life. but it is the linchpin of performing well in an interview. This is far and away my favorite tip because it works so well. I came up with it myself. I've used it myself. I've recommended it to other people who've used it to great success. So it's just a really bloody good one, and I hope you do adopt it. Trust me when I tell you, I get it. I get that you're nervous. You have worked for this day your whole life. And it's a big deal. I bet sometimes when you think about it, you can feel your heart beating a bit faster and knots in your stomach. I do not want you to say to yourself or out loud to anyone that you are nervous or anxious. Instead, when you get that feeling through your body, I want you to tell yourself out loud that you're excited. Say it out loud, I'm so excited that I have this opportunity to showcase what an amazing doctor I'm going to be. If you really think about it, the body sensation of being excited or anxious, they're pretty similar feelings. Think about if you're getting dressed for a date or you're going on a holiday that you're really excited about the next day. If you do that enough, your brain will just start to accept that, yeah, you are excited about this interview. Excited is sexy, and that is such a better energy to be bringing into the room. Tip 4 is writing down scenarios where you've displayed your doctor qualities. So in a moment, I will go through a list of qualities that you should do this for, but first I'll explain the format in which you should write the scenarios out. The format is STAR, which is situation, task, action, response. I'll leave a link in the description with more information about how you can write something in the STAR format. I'll give you an example of how to do this for the first quality, which is communication. Yes, the whole interview is going to be testing your communication skills, but it is useful to have scenarios in your back pocket because they sometimes do ask questions like, tell me about a time you did this, or tell me about a time you did that. And these thought out scenarios are perfect for those sort of situations. The scenarios that you'll write down probably won't come up exactly in the form that they ask you, but most of the time if you have that scenario in your head, it's easier to construct a response from that. STAR scenario for communication could be the situation being you work at IKEA, and then the task is that you are not making enough money from work to pay your expenses, so you're looking for more shifts. Action is how you spoke to your manager, what you said to your manager, how you approach the scenario to communicate that to them. Response is what was the outcome of you talking to your manager about getting more shifts. The next quality to write a scenario for is collaboration. So write one about a time a collaboration went well and one for when it didn't go well. Thirdly is leadership, a scenario where you've been a good leader, a scenario where you've been a bad leader. The next one is advocacy. And this is probably not one that they'll ask you that you've done because it's kind of rare to have done that at undergrad level, but definitely write a scenario about what you think that means to you and really dissect the word and in the context of healthcare. Last but certainly not the least is professionalism. So write a few scenarios about what is good professionalism and what is bad professionalism and what good professionalism is to you. If you think about scenarios for all of those things I just mentioned, you're going to ace it. The next tip is to be honest. There's going to be some questions that you get and you're going to think, do I give the answer that I would really give, or would I give the answer that I think they want me to give? In those situations, you just need to give your honest answer and pad it out with the reasons why. Because lying just isn't cute and it's gonna look really obvious if you do lie. One of the questions I got in one of my interviews was that I'm a medical student, this was a scenario, and I have a job, a part-time job, and then I get another part-time job which is actually closer to my house and pays better. So would I quit my current job to take the new role? The first thing you think is, yeah, of course I would quit and then take the job closer to my house with better pay. But then you might think to yourself, if you think about it for too long, does that show that I'm greedy or that I'm just money hungry? Are the interviewers going to think that that's a bad answer in that instance? Don't buy into those intrusive thoughts that you're having. What I ended up saying as a response to that question was, yes, I would take the job closer to my house because that would mean that I would have more time to dedicate to my studies, and because the pay was better, I would have to work less hours to support myself. So then I could devote myself more to my education, which is my #1 priority. I also talked about how I wouldn't want to leave my other job in the lurch, so I'd give them ample time to find a new person and help them to find a person and offer to do training for their new employees to make the transition as seamless as possible. Give your true answer and the reasons why that is your answer. The next tip is remember that there is room for error. You do not have to give perfect answers in every station. I didn't. I know that a lot of schools take your best stations and omit 1 or 2 stations. And while I haven't seen anything officially from universities stating that they do that, I've seen whispers of it on the internet and I have my own anecdote to add weight to that argument. So I was about halfway through my interview and at this point I was feeling pretty good, had gotten a few good stations in, and then I walked into a detechnicalization station. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's an interview station where you get a piece of paper with all these science words on it. You have to pick two and you have to explain it to the interviewer in layman's terms with an example. So I pick up this piece of paper and I think I picked equilibrium. I'm a dumbass, I don't know why I picked equilibrium. And I just couldn't do it. I fumbled around and I could barely get a full sentence out. So I'm in there for 5 minutes. I don't think I've said a full sentence in the whole 5 minutes I've been there, just like tumbling over all of my words, much like when I'm filming a video. I think the science term for that is brain fart, or the next level up, which is brain explosive diarrhea. And then I looked at the lady and she's looking at me like I'm an idiot. And I say to her, do you understand what I said? And she just looked me in the eye and said, no.
That's all, folks.
And then I walked out of the room and I was like, okay, I'm gonna put it out of mind. That happened. I'm not gonna let it impact me. And then I managed to actually have really good stations after that. So I definitely would have gotten a 0 for that station. Let's be real. You can't just not say anything in an interview and get any marks. Like, no. But I got in. I think that adds weight to the theory that they don't count all of your stations. Lastly, explore both sides of the question, but remember to give an answer. You want to show that you can consider pros and cons to whatever they're giving you, especially in ethics-based questions. For example, if you've gotten an ethical question about whether you would give a kidney to a 85-year-old man or a 30-year-old alcoholic man, then you need to show that you can see the for and against for both the young man and the older man. And that should be the bulk of your answer, the reasoning part. But be sure at the end to actually give a definitive answer. When you're a doctor, one of the things that you're gonna have to do is make decisions under pressure. So make sure you do come to a conclusive answer at the end of the interview station. Not at the start, because that's gonna say that you just jump to conclusions. You wanna show the reasoning and then at the end, give your answer. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you learned something from it. If you did, it would be awesome if you could like this video and comment because it helps the algorithm. If you have any questions as well, leave them in the comments on my Instagram because I answer all of my messages, and best of luck to you, but it's not like you need it.